Well met, all my friends of the North. I am Batman. Cup of coffee. Yes, yes, here we go. On screen is a character sheet for my upcoming tabletop RPG titled Erathata! Erathata! Erathata. Erathata. I feel like whenever I'm at my local gaming store browsing through a new TTRPG, or I'm scrolling through a PDF of a newly purchased game, or one that I'm just excited about, I am always able to get a good feel for things when I look at a character sheet. So I figured I'd give you the current iteration of Erathata's character sheet. My players could tell you that the character sheet has changed 50 times with different information, but mostly because I'm a designer, layout artist at heart, so I always feel the need to twist and pull boxes and just create some design aesthetic, that type of stuff. But anyway, this is the character sheet we have here. Hopefully it sparks a bit of interest. It brings about some questions. And if you have questions, put them in the comments. Let's talk about this game. Let's get hyped. You are going to want this game because I am confident that there is no other game out there that will change your life more than this one. The subtitle should be Erathata, a life-changing experience. Anyway, up top, there you put your name. If you want to put your real name, your player name, that's fine. Are you Brad, Sarah, Susan, Chuck? Or are you Gilgamok, Monkrat, Borley, McBattlebones? Put your name up there. Species. There's 15, I think. You've got these Raveneth guys, which are like Skeksis from Dark Crystal. Maybe a little taller, a little more slender, so therefore nothing at all like Skeksis from Dark Crystal. But they do have that mysterious, sort of a stigma attached to them as like these ancient casters that people are a little wary of. So you've got the Raveneth, the bird people. You've got humans, you have elves, you have Nothmore, which are nomadic, kind of demi-humans. You've got Bone Sava, which are demi-humans as well, just a variant human, if you will. Very pale, tall, kind of vampiric in look. You've got goblins, you've got cave goblins, which look a lot like Gollum, hunched over, malnourished, a little more slender. Also, I must say, very quickly, of the species you choose, only one of them, which is cursed, which is a human that is cursed with lycanthropy. That is the only one with any mechanical difference or change. So play whatever species you want. Even though I talk about this cave goblin being this kind of malnourished weakling, if you want to put 15 muscle in your cave goblin and say he's the strongest dude on earth, then great, go for it. You've got the Ugfolk, which are descended. They're not amphibious, but they're descended from an aquatic species in my game. You've got the big guys, the Ungolani, which are rhino people. You've got the Torak, which are yak folk. You've got half Bracken, which are descended from full Bracken, which are the Minotaur. Very Beastman, Warhammer fantasy style. Bracken are one of the main four big global threats to the world. And so you have the half Bracken, which are still massive. They're Minotaurs, like 8 feet tall, almost cave troll size, 9 to 10 feet. Whereas full Bracken are almost giant sized in D&D, right? These guys are 15-foot tall Minotaurs. But anyway, you've got the big folk, you have the yak folk, you have the rhino guys, you have the Minotaurs. There's dwarf. There's a grumble wheel who is like a cherubic, very hairy mini dude. He's like 3 feet tall. You've got, kind of think of gnomes, but very feral, with Chaka from Land of the Lost. You've got Bode Warrens, which are a goblin, not sub-goblin, they're not lesser. A demi-goblin, if you will, with a bat-like nose, so these very kind of feral features. They're a little more feral goblins, in a way. I think that's all of them. Anyway, there's 15. So you're going to write whatever species you pick. EXP is the currency in this world. It's everything. It's what you need to buy gear, to get traits, to get spells, to improve your character, increase your stats, and so on. So it's really important to know how much you have and what have you spent, so you can kind of track and make sure that you're not cheating the system. Hit points. Everyone starts the game with 10 hit points. There's a bunch of gear, traits, spells, things that, not a bunch of gear for sure. I believe there's only one trait, and then there's a few spells that can increase your max hit points, but hit points don't naturally go up as you level. There is no levels in this game. There's no levels and there's no classes. So similar to like Skyrim, what you use, what you wear, what spells you mess around with, and the traits you pick define how you weave through the world. If you want to be roguish in nature, pick roguish traits. Wear gear that gives you bonuses to stealth or that allows you to play in the dark, so to speak. If you want to be a tanky guy, a warrior guy, wear gear that gives you a lot of armor. Use spells that give you better defensive capability. Equip a shield, and so on. So there's no classes. It's a classless system. It's a level-less system. But because XP is so important, you're likely going to, and that's what I'm weaving through in my playtest sessions right now, you're likely going to be starting this game with a set amount of points. Right now, my mind is thinking 75 EXP, but I don't know what that sweet spot is. We're testing characters, the same combat, the same situation, the same scenario, with a character with 30 EXP, 70 EXP, and 150 EXP. And we're trying to see where that sweet spot is. It is a stat-based game. You've got 8 stats, accuracy and agility. I separated the dexterity component of it, where the most important one is maybe accuracy, because that is what determines, that's what you roll against to hit with ranged weapons, to hit with thrown weapons. But accuracy represents hand dexterity, manipulation, sleight of hand, picking locks, picking pockets. David Blaine, the magician, would have a very high accuracy, right? Finger dexterity and moving around, hand-eye coordination type stuff. That's accuracy. Agility is actual footwork, right? Like an Olympic gymnast, an acrobat. I understand they can oftentimes go hand in hand, but I believe there's enough there to create a separation so that we don't put just so much value in one sort of dexterity stat, okay? So agility is your stealth ability. If you have to balance along a rooftop as you're running, think of an Overwatch trailer. If you're running along the rooftops, parkouring your way, Ezio style in Assassin's Creed, that's agility. Because I do believe that doesn't necessarily mean that you're an incredible sniper, right? That's an accuracy thing. Charisma is charisma. Very simple. All of the social play weaves into and around charisma. Endurance is the ability to withstand things, to outdrink an ogre, to trudge through straight days of march through the swamps with little nourishment, right? With no rest, to push on, to endure the oppressive heat of something like the demon realms. That's usually an endurance roll. Magic is used to decipher and work through magical script and text, and you find a magic thing on the wall. Can I unravel the puzzle of that? But most importantly, magic is the roll that you roll against to cast spells. Spells are not automatic here, necessarily. I'll talk about that in brief. So just like you need accuracy to fire your crossbow, your longbow, or your musket, you roll against accuracy. I'll explain the core roll in a little bit. If you succeed, you hit. If you fail, you miss. Magic, generally, you have to roll against your magic stat. If you succeed, the spell goes off. If you fail, the spell does not. Mind represents both intellect and wisdom. So I've combined it into one, right? Whether it's book smarts or simply being able to, can I piece together what's going on? That is oftentimes mind. Muscle is the stat that governs melee attacks. Whether you're poking with a dagger, I get it, but I'll explain this in a minute. You're poking with a dagger, stabbing with a rapier, or you're wielding a massive greatsword. It's muscle that you roll against. You roll appropriately, you hit, you fail the roll, you miss, okay? Perception is notice. Can I see that thing? Can I spot that thing at distance? Did I notice the clue on the door that's going to help us unlock it? That's a perception roll. Okay? Now, weapons all have die types from D4 to D12. D12s are reserved for bombs and for guns. There's 4 types of guns: flintlocks and pistols, which are smaller handheld, one-handed guns. And then you have muskets and rifles, which are the big boys. Those weapons deal D12 damage. So when I take a shot with my rifle, my pistol, whatever, I roll against accuracy. If I hit, I just roll the D12, and that's how much damage you do. Okay? Now, let's get into the core roll. This is the core roll through 99% of the rolls in this game. This is a 3d6 roll under system. Your stats are going to be rated from 5 to 15. 5 to 15. At character creation, you're going to divvy up an array. I think it's like you put 2 10s, 2 9s, 2 8s. You get it, right? A 7 and a 6 or something like this, and a 5. And you divide that up among your stats however you want, right? Remember, doesn't matter what species you pick. Put the stats where you want. So at creation, the highest your stat is going to start with is a 10. But it caps at 15. And the lowest your stat can go, because there may be some enemy effects, or you go into the demon realms, which is this horrible zone, there might be an effect in place that makes your endurance dropped all the way down to a 5. The lowest your stat can ever be is a 5, and the highest your stat can ever be is a 15. So on your character sheet, there's modifiers, right? Like plus, minus. You're firing in the rain, low visibility, blood is dripping into your eyes, and you can barely see the goblin. I might give you a -2 to your attack roll, okay? But you're never rolling against anything lower than 5 or above 15. So you roll 3d6. If the total of your 3d6 is equal to or less than the stat that you're rolling against. So for example, simple math, I'm rolling against magic 10. I roll 3d6. I get a 4-4-2. That's a 10. I roll a 3-3-1. That's a 7. But I roll a 6-5-6. That's a fail. You have to roll equal to or under your magic stat of 10. If you do, the spell goes off, okay? That's the simple core of the game, because most things that you're going to do, most tasks in the game are resolved with some sort of a stat. The traits, the spells, the gear that you have play into that. You might have a rogue hood that gives you plus to your stealth roll, which is generally an agility roll. And if your agility is a 10, but your rogue hood gives you +2 to stealth, when you're rolling stealth specifically, you're rolling at a 12, okay? The 5-15 hard caps create a 5%, just like a D20, right? A natural 20 is always a success. A natural 1 is always a fail. In this game, if you're rolling against a 5, you have a 5% chance of success, I think math comes out to be. If you're rolling against a 15, you have a 95% chance of success. But there's always that 5%. You might roll 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Or no, you get it. 16, 17, 18. So that's the core of the system. There's many, many traits in the game. We'll go over those later. There's many spells. Everyone starts with, again, I'm playing with how much EXP I want you to start with, because you want to use that to maybe increase your stats further beyond the initial array of 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and so on. You may want to start with some gear, because there's a mechanic called break. You'll notice you have 15 slots there for gear, 15 lines. That's it. That is accounting for everything you have and sort of carry. Common sense determines what's equipped and what's carried. So if you have a longbow, that's a two-handed weapon. That is what's in your hands. You can't sort of be holding your greatsword and using it in combat while also picking a lock, because I'm simply going to ask you what hand is holding the lockpick, right? If you're wielding a greatsword, you can't tell me that you're using your shield for defense, right? Because there is no, I hold the greatsword in one hand and I hold the shield in the other, and then before I attack with the greatsword, I drop it. No, because that messes with the whole gear slot economy of it all, right? A two-handed weapon is occupying both hands. You have one helmet on, but you've got a helm in your backpack as a backup. You just simply tell me which helm is on, right? You're not benefiting from both helmets. You're not benefiting from two breastplates, right? You're wearing whatever you're wearing, and it goes in one of those 15 slots. Anytime you take damage, you have some damage mitigation tricks next to hit points up there. You have armor and dodge. You can reduce the damage. The creature hits you for 20. However much armor you're wearing, which is coming from gear, maybe there's some spells in play, like a buff is what they're called, which is like a permanent spell effect that's on you for the whole combat. You total up all your armor. Let's say you're wearing 5 armor. If I hit you for 20, you just reduce that down to 15. Now, you're either going to take 15 hit points of damage, which, unless you're wearing hit point gear, it's probably going to just straight kill you. This game has no death saves, no last chance rolls, no resurrection mechanics. You hit 0, all you're doing is making a trip to the printer for another character sheet. You're done. You're dead. That's it. And remember, you start with 10 hit points, and you don't automatically go up. You have to choose gear or spells that are in play or traits that boost your hit points further. Without those choices, you've only got 15 gear slots. Likely, if you're wearing a breastplate that boosts your hit points, you're probably not also then wearing a breastplate that boosts your great sword damage. You've got to decide what you're going to benefit from. You get 15 things. So damage that goes through is going to take your hit points away. And obviously there's healing spells and whatnot, but you're going to lose hit points. So let's say you're taking 15 damage after you've reduced from mitigation, you've reduced from your armor, but you don't like that 15 points of damage because it's going to kill you. You can simply always say, I take nothing. And to do that, you simply, it's not simple, you break one of your 15 slots of gear. Now, you can break your backpack. You can break a shield that's in your backpack. It doesn't have to be the one you're holding. If it's one of the 15, I don't care if you have a torch. You can break your torch. And that's the sort of the role play or the narrative thing of where, you know, those movies where someone shoots at another dude and the Zippo lighter is in their left breast pocket and the bullet hits that and they pull it out, or, you know, you get a dagger sticking into a deck of cards and you're like, oh, thank God I had that deck of cards up there. Otherwise that would have went and poked my heart, right? So when the dragon bites for 27 damage, you can forget about all your mitigation and just simply say, I'm going to take 0. I don't want any damage. And you just say, the dragon bit my lamp, or my lantern, I should say. And you just simply cross off your lantern. A lot of that comes from, or is inspired by Crown and Skull's Runehammer's attrition system, where you can use gear for that. But I've seen this in other games for a long time. And even just the theme of it, again, it goes all the way back to, you know, you were wearing a weightlifting belt, right? Just some big ass leather belt. And you fell down and, you know, landed on a toolbox and the screwdriver poked into the weightlifting belt. And you're like, oh, thank God I had that belt on. If I didn't have that belt on, that would have poked into my stomach, right? And really caused some damage. So you can take the hit anywhere, but you get to choose that. But then you break the gear. That's why there's a little bubble there, right? So I break my lantern. You bubble that in. That means it's now broken. Whatever you break, all the properties of that thing turns off. So let's say you wear a helm or goggles that lets you see in the dark, right? And a goblin sniper shoots a longbow at you and hits you for ridiculous damage. They crit you, and they hit you for 22. And you're like, I have 10 hit points and 3 armor. I'm dead. Instead, you just look on your list and you say, I'm going to break my goggles. Now, of course, why would you break your goggles early on? You wouldn't, right? You keep your valuable stuff going. But over a long duration, you know, you've taken a lot of damage coming in, you're going to be breaking a lot of gear. And if the least detrimental thing to break is your goggles, you break your goggles. And it's just like that arrow deflected off of, you know, that's the sound of breaking goggles. It bursts against your goggles and it breaks it. And you take no damage, right? Like the arrow didn't pierce your eye. Instead, it shattered the glass and broke your goggles. But now those goggles turn off. So you lost your ability to see in the dark. So if that goblin is in the cave, by simply breaking that, sure, you take 0 damage. But now I can't see the goblin anymore. There's a repair system in play, which allows you to erase that bubble so that you can re-break it again and so on. And also there's creatures that deal what's called devastate damage, where it's usually found on more powerful, higher level creatures, things like this. right? A creature with devastate damage is devastating because they might have a devastate value from 2 to 5. And what happens is, let's say a creature hits you and he's got devastate 4. That damage, and maybe it's not the blank, like all of his attacks are devastate. Maybe he just has one attack that deals devastate damage. If it's devastate 4, you can still break to ignore that 22 damage, but you have to break 4 pieces of gear. Okay? So that's the gist of the break system. So it's really important because you're turning things off. You don't lose traits, you don't lose spells, there's nothing like that, from damage, but they also, sure, a spell or a trait might give you some sort of damage mitigation, but if you take damage, and creatures auto-hit in this game, I'm just rolling damage against you. If I hit you, and we've already accounted for and mitigated for the traits and the spells you have in play, all the buffs you got going, and you're going to take 19 damage, and you have nothing left to break, you're just losing hit points at that point. Take 19 points of damage. That's it. You're done, right? So that's how it works. That's the bulk of the sheet. One important point in the black there is heroic and hero points. Everyone starts with a heroic of 10. It's sort of a special stat. Notice it's in the stat box, but it's not one of the 8. Okay? You can put points. You can spend EXP to increase your accuracy, agility, endurance, magic, and muscle. Right? Remember, the highest you're going to start with is a 10. If you assign it one of the 10s, you go from 5 to 15. Heroic follows the same rules, 5 to 15, but everyone automatically gets 10 points that goes into heroic. So your heroic stat is a 10, and everyone starts with 4 hero points. There's, of course, gear and traits and things that give you more. Heroic, you can't increase it with XP. There's a special trait that you need that your heroic only increases by using it. Whenever you roll that 3d6 against your heroic stat, remember, equal to or under, if you roll exact, so if I have a heroic of 10 and I roll 442, that's a 10. My heroic automatically goes up to 11. And only when I use heroic and I roll exactly 11 on my 3d6 roll does my heroic go up to 12. You can't increase it on any other way. And using heroic is exactly what it sounds like. It lets you break the rules of the game. It lets you twist the rules. You always have to spend a hero point, which, remember, everyone in the game gets 4. And hero points only reset at the start of every session. Has nothing to do with rest, camping, downtime, nothing. They only reset at the start of each session. So if you've used all 4 of your hero points during the session, you're out. And in order to roll heroic, like there's 50 demons coming through the gate, can I hold the gate? Well, that's not really a muscle roll, right? That's me as a GM saying, how the hell are you going to hold the gate? 50 Manaroth World of Warcraft demons are coming through the gate. Muscle's not going to work, dude. Sure, you might cast a spell that, puts a wall up or whatever, right? But they're going to break whatever. That could be a call for, I'm going to spend a hero point, bubble in one of your, the 4 bubbles you have. I'm going to roll heroic. And the beauty of that stat, anyone can use it. And some players are going to play heavily into that. They're going to have gear that allows them to use hero points in different ways. They're going to have traits like the one that allows you to increase it every time you roll equal to, right? If you don't want to play into heroic, you still have a 10 and 4 hero points, but you're not really playing that heroic-based character. Everyone's a hero, but you know what I mean. But if you're really playing into the heroic thing, the beauty of it is you roll and then you narrate what happens as a result of that roll. Success or failure, and that's the beauty of it. You tell me, I don't know, I look down to my left and right and I notice there's these like broken chains, right? Like demonic chains. So I grab one chain and I shackle myself to the gate, which anchors me. And I grab the other chain and I shackle myself. And I just start to pull in, Hercules holding the pillars type of thing. And I just pull in and I squeeze and I'm yelling to my God, or I'm yelling to my companions, run, go, I will hold the gate. And I rolled heroic and I succeeded and I spent my hero point and like I can feel the demon breath against me and I might just say, cool, for whatever reason, you don't know what happens. There's this weird aura of light that illuminates radiance around you, and you ignore all the damage. But the cool part is, you tell me you're going to hold the gate, and you're rolling against a heroic of 11, and on the total of the dice, you roll a 15. Now you narrate, and I'm like, and you just get skewered, and your companions see this massive telephone pole-sized spear pierce through your breastplate, through your chest, and then you get lifted off the ground, and the demon just and tosses you into the demon portal. And go ahead and make a new character. You're done. That's it. See you guys later.